Hello guys, today I'm gonna be showing you just a basic configuration between Cisco devices. My name is Juan and I have been in the industry for about 7 years and plus. Cisco is the biggest networking company in the world, and they have the most market share when we speak about networking and you know security. They have a lot of engineers working with them as well, and many companies also have a Cisco engineers working for them. Um, I'll be one of the Cisco engineer in the near future, so I'll be doing just a simple, basic configuration here on how Cisco devices communicate in the network. Okay, so I'll be doing just the basic configuration of all, and in the next recording, you're gonna see more about the different protocols that Cisco devices have, like spanning tree, OSPF, uh, ISS, RIP version 1, 2, and many other functionalities that Cisco devices have. So I'm connecting the interfaces here. So we can configure them to basically communicate in the network. Okay. Uh, so from the router to the switch, I'm using straight through cable, and uh, from the switch to computers, I'm using crossover cable, which they will communicate. But the best thing is to use crossover cable between devices. Okay, so we're gonna be configuring a router. So when you purchase the router and you take it out of the box, you power on that router, and the first thing you're gonna see is that prompt that it will walk you through the process of configuring the router if you want to. In this case, I'm not gonna follow the prompt because I know what I'm gonna be configuring. As you see here, it's showing the details and the spec of the router, the processing power, and the amount of RAM that uh, the router has, which is very important when you choose what type of networking device you're gonna have in your environment. So I choose no. Okay, from user configuration mode, we're gonna go into global configuration mode. So we're gonna configure our interface. The first thing we're gonna change is the router name. Uh, okay, it's gonna be name R1. Um, we're gonna set up a password just as the basic security measure for the device. So whoever tries to do any administration or basically the device is compromised is not going to be able to see. Uh, this command allow for the device to hide the password, and in case that whoever is doing the administration or is not authorized to do administration on the device, or the device got compromised, is not going to be able to see the password in plain text. I will say this is just the basic of security. Do not rely on that, please, for the sake of your security. And the way that we can identify that, we apply the show run command, and we see that our password is completely encrypted. So as I mentioned before, this is just the basic of configuration. You know, rely on that. Uh, Apply other measures of security. I will also be showing other measures of security in the near recording. So the second thing we're gonna do, or the third thing we're gonna do, is to configure our interface. Okay. Uh, so the interface can communicate with the switch and with the devices as well. Our Sun and mask is gonna be 255.255.255.0. We apply the no shut command so we can bring up the interface, since by default all of the interfaces, either a router or a switch device from Cisco, they are shut down by default. Okay, and we are gonna set up our DSCP pool. Okay, we're gonna name it. She's gonna be named one. You can name it whatever name you want to give it, and we are going to identify our network. Since our interface was configured to be 192.168.1.1, we are gonna identify that network to be on the 192.168.1.0, which is the network um, for that interface. Of course, I did have invalid input because I have an extra dot here that is not supposed to be in there. So we're gonna uh, identify what we did. So okay, our password, our host name, we change it to be R1. Our password is completely encrypted. Our pool is cool1, and our network is the 1.0 as we configure in the router. Our interface that is connected right now is Gigabit Ethernet 00, and the net IP address assigned to it is 192.168.1.1. Uh, so we are gonna test if what we did in regard of the password is working. So now we have a prompt that we have to type our password, and we are inside the router. Otherwise, we won't be able to do anything in that device. The second thing we're gonna do, we're gonna configure our switch. Okay, we're gonna do the same thing basically. We're gonna access the global configuration mode as we see here. We're gonna rename our switch to be switch 1. We are gonna enable our password just for the basic of security. We are going to create a VLAN in that switch. So whatever interface or whatever computer or device is connected to our port can communicate between them. So one thing that I would like to call out, this is a layer 2 switch, as many engineers and administrator and people working in the IT industry doing network administration, big projects and things like that. We already know that a layer 2 switch is based on MAC address, so devices are going to be communicating and the switch is going to be forwarding traffic just based on MAC address, because IP address, forwarding traffic based on IP address, that's the functionality of the router, which is a layer 3, or a layer 3 router that have some functionality, a layer 3 switch that have some functionality as the router. Okay. Uh, so VLAN 10, we're gonna configure our interfaces. One, two, three. Uh, okay. And now we're gonna switch our interfaces to access mode. Uh, from the router to the switch is supposed to be truncated. That interface, that link connection is supposed to be truncated. I know that, guys, but since I'm just doing a basic configuration here, I'm not gonna truncate that interface and I'll leave it as access mode. I know I'm gonna have a DHCP conflict also. The router is gonna identify a DHCP conflict input. I know that, but this is just a basic of the basic configuration in a network using the Cisco devices. In the near future, you're gonna see that I'll be configuring trunk port, spanning tree protocol, uh, RIP version 1 and 2, OSPF, DTP, BTP, all these things. So I already switch the interfaces. As you see, they are in orange because they are communicating. Right now, I'm gonna set up the PCs to grab an IP address from the router. Okay. And one thing that we have to do is that we have to point the switch to the default gateway. So the default gateway can, basically start distributing the IP address because the default gateway is the DHCP is the DHCP device where have the pool for all of the devices. Um, okay, so basically right now it's communicating. Uh, KRPC2 already have an IP address, and RPC1 already have an IP address. So let's verify our configuration in the switch. Okay, so we apply the show run command, which is the one that will show the configuration that we did. We start with the first line whose name is SW1, which is the name that we gave to the switch. Our password is fully encrypted. Uh, and basically our three interface, they are set up to be access mode. Okay, fast Ethernet 1, 2, and 3. They are already set up in access mode. VLAN 10, which is the first VLAN that we are created. From port 4 to 24, they are all set up, still set up in native VLAN, which is VLAN 1. Uh, for the sake of all us, we have to switch these interfaces to be in a different VLAN. Okay, is one of the security measure as well. Do not leave your Cisco ports in the native VLAN, okay, because uh, it could be compromised at some point. I'm not saying that changing the ports to a different VLAN won't be compromised if you don't apply the proper security measure on the device, but at least is, another wall, as we call it, when we speak about security. I'll be talking more about security in the future. So our basic configuration is finished. So we have to uh, test it out and make sure that it's working. Okay, so we're gonna ping one PC to another. We're gonna ping from PC one to uh, PC2, and as we see, it's communicating. Okay, so we're gonna ping from PC2 to PC1 just to make sure that they are communicating as well. And as we see, we are receiving an input that the devices are communicating between each other. Thank you very much, Guy. I'll see you in the next chapter. This is was just a basic configuration using Cisco devices. Thank you very much.